Hello and welcome to the 7th edition of the English Department's Poetry Podcast, and we're very lucky this week because we're doing Winter Swans, and for the first time ever we have invited a special guest visitor from Year 11, and it's Robyn. Say hello, Robyn.
Hello.
And I feel, although I'm leading this, I feel a bit like the Batman to this Robyn, because without Robyn being here, I don't think we could get through this poem. So we're going to start by looking at Winter Swans, and I think it's really interesting to begin with if we talk about the title, because it's quite a loaded title, quite evocative, makes us think of lots of things. Robyn, start us off, what do you think about this one?
So Winter Swans, the word winter, it sort of links to Christmas. So it's like a time for togetherness and happiness and joy. And also winter is like the end of things and not the start. So it links to the rest of the poem. And swans symbolise love. So when swans mate, they stay together forever, which... yeah, I think
That's quite interesting fact. It's always good to have a Robyn Swan fact of the day. And I think of all the swan facts you've shared with us, that's the best one.
Right.
But I think it's really interesting.
Stop swanning around.
Like lobsters.
Like lobsters?
Yeah.
They make for life?
Yeah, lobsters
Okay.
make for life and they hold claws. It's adorable, isn't it?
Is that a true fact?
That is a true fact that I learnt from Friends.
There we go. But I think what was really good was that you zoomed in on winter and looked at it as a word that had two different interpretations, the joyfulness, togetherness you mentioned, but also the end of things. If we're looking at a relationship here which for some reason, and we never learn why, there's a real ambiguity to that, but we get the hint that this relationship is on the rocks a little bit.
Although I think that it's mostly because they've been stuck inside together, isn't it? They've just had to put too much time together. They've been stuck inside in the rain. It's like being on holiday when you're like in a caravan. It's really,
And by the end of it, you hate
you really
your partner.
hate the person that you're with. And
I have a slightly more metaphorical interpretation of that. Like when it says that opening line, the clouds had given their all, I kind of think of that, like you do get that feeling, particularly if you've been through a breakup of feeling like you've given that relationship or that person everything you've got, and you are at the end of your energy and you can't do any more.
And I suppose when it's personified as well, given their all, it just brings that to life a little bit more.
Think of an exam as well, like, I've given it my all, that exam, and it's like you come out of it feeling drained. So I do think there's
I think it works on two levels. I think they have been stuck inside, but also there's a sense that there's something going wrong in their relationship that you can see.
And that's reinforced by the kind of soft consonant sounds like the R of rain and the B of break and the W in walked as well.
Yeah.
But even if you look at the end of that first line, when you've got the hyphen, the clouds had given their all, like there's nothing left. But using that hyphen in a way suggests there's still more to come, whether it's more unrelenting rain and suffering, or whether it's a pause to mean, and now things can improve somewhat.
In the second stanza where it says waterlogged and gulping, like those open vowel sounds, waterlogged and gulping, that kind of reminds me of that like sucking feeling, like when you're walking through mud and you can't kind of carry on with something. That struggle, I think that sort of suggests they're struggling in their relationship as well, as in the same way as you'd struggle along through the mud.
And I think that they're struggling with it, but you get some words, and there's a verb in particular on line 6, skirted, that suggests they know there's an issue, they know perhaps something big needs to happen, but they're skirting that issue, and I think that, again, can often be the downfall in lots of relationships when the talking doesn't happen and you sidestep things and you don't.
Although they don't
get to
talk
terms.
when they resolve it, do they? Because I quite like the way that some shift in understanding happens without them really saying anything very much. And suddenly everything's all right again.
It's silent and apart, and then the swans come in that third stanza, and they seem to become a symbol, like Robyn was saying, a symbol of love. And it's this direct speech of they mate for life. You said.
Oh, that's where you got your fact from. They mate for life. It tells you in the poem.
No faith. She's done excellent research on that.
Anything you want to bring in, Robyn?
As well, like with the skirted, it has like multiple meanings. So like keeping to the edge of the lake, but also like keeping their distance from each other, and like avoiding the issue that they're in. So like you can see that there's like with silence and apart as well, it emphasises the tension between them. Like they're together but they're not.
Yeah, good.
And
You mentioned the swan, Miss Robert, when the swans come in. I quite like on that 7th line until the swans came and stopped us, that's sibilance.
Yeah.
And if we're looking, we know sibilance can do lots of things, but it seems like that moment was quite important to them to see it, and I think that sibilance mirrors that a little bit, slows it down, brings a sense of serenity and a time for them to reflect.
And it carries on as well in the second line of that stanza as well, with the show of tipping in unison, so you've still got sibilant words there as well.
yeah, and it's in the second to last stanza as well. So it's like
Slow.
the softening of their relationship.
See that bit there, I think that the sibilance there in line 16 is to do with them. It's like they're dancing, it's like the feet of the sound their feet are making in the shingle and sand.
Slow stepping.
Like the of their feet moving.
Slow stepping as well, I don't know why, it makes me think of slow dancing.
Yeah.
And like weddings,
Like
that first dance. Which is a lovely bit. I noticed the hands that had some, look at that on line 17, how the use of those commas almost creates this unbelievable tone. I noticed our hands that had somehow, I think that's somehow in that moment of revelation, like, oh my gosh, the connection is still there.
Yeah, the caesura kind of creates that pause of,
But I like the way
my goodness,
the verb.
there's a way to come back.
Yeah. The verb swan connects them to the swans.
And also swimming it takes effort, you have to try.
Yeah.
And I like this idea that, yes, they haven't really said anything, but they also didn't walk away from each other. They might have skirted around each other for a little bit, but they didn't walk away from each other. They've somehow rebuilt that connection.
Yeah, and in line 11 where it says white feather, white feathers are usually seen when someone dies. So this could symbolise that their arguing and fighting is like stopped, and like it's an end to.
And
their fighting.
white feathers are also peace, aren't they? You give
Yeah.
white feathers as some.
I thought you gave white feathers to men in the war who didn't go off
Oh yeah.
for being cowardly.
Mr. Luke gave me a white feather once. I don't know what it meant.
Coward.
There's
I don't know whether that works, white feathers for cowards, but anyway.
But there's also a juxtaposition between stillness and stasis and being stuck, and then huge sort of turbulence and pathetic fallacy there through the rough weather, contrasted with the still water and the porcelain as well. And so there's a contrast in the relationship of this kind of turbulence and problems with kind of calm and peace and acceptance and equilibrium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the porcelain, you
Definitely.
touched on a nice thing there. Porcelain we'd associate with being quite strong, and when I think of porcelain, I think of like a collection of plates that somebody takes real pride in, but they're also quite fragile, aren't they? You drop some of this porcelain and it shatters into a million pieces, which again is perhaps a nice metaphor for this. What do we think about the stanza length? Because we got 3 lines in every stanza until we come to this couplet at the end.
I was going to pick up on what Miss Osborne said about equilibrium. So the fact that by the end of the poem, they seem to have reached some kind of consensus, which we think is them continuing on with this relationship. And that last 2 lines might show that they are still going to be a couple with the couplet.
Yeah, and then the full stop at the end sort of emphasises the sense that the trouble in their relationship has been resolved. So it's like come to an end now.
Yeah.
The conclusion. There's quite a positive word to end with, isn't it? After flight.
Yeah.
With flight. And I'm thinking, what's the poem? Mother Any Distance ends with fall or fly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Remember all those connotations of flight and taking off, starting again.
I think that
come through.
I think that similarly at the end, the like a pair of wings settling after flight is really lovely actually, because it's like that folding over of fitting together. It's quite a nice image.
One thing I do enjoy about this, I think if we go back to what we were saying at the start about how they'd been sort of trapped away for 2 days, but it's nature, it's the beauty of nature that allows them to rekindle and rediscover.
Yeah, even though it was nature that separated them, or kind of caused possibly caused the fracture in the beginning, it's nature that brings them back together.
I suppose if we're looking at quite a sort of philosophical level here, which we want to do if we can get those higher grades, we could be looking at the sort of all-encompassing power of nature. It makes me think maybe, I was doing a bit of reading about neo-romanticism, which might be our thing to do a bit of research into after we've listened to this podcast. But we see there's a lot of elements of these natural things that have been quite powerful in the lives of or the life of this couple. So I think that about brings us to a close. Do watch this space for the next special Year 11 guest, and if you'd like to join in the fun, just let one of your English teachers know. Robyn, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, it's a good poem. I like what we've covered today.
Oh, thank you, Robyn.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.